At one time, northeastern Pennsylvania was one of the most important regions in America and the world. Anthracite coal mining was big business and ushered in a boom of prosperity for the region, and with it came no less than 7 railroads that capitalized on hauling the black diamonds out of the area. And although those glory days are long gone, remnants of the area's plethora of rail lines can still be found. On Scranton's north side, the Dean Street crossing comes alive at the approaching of a trainload of today's biggest area railroad business. On the other side of that railroad bridge, in Scranton's Green Ridge section, the decrepit remains of the Delaware and Hudson's Green Ridge Yard tell the sad story of how fast the fortunes of an industry and a region can change, and also how fast it can rebound. These days, what's left of the Green Ridge Yard is used as a staging area for loaded and empty hoppers coming from and going to a frac sand transloading facility in Carbondale. Besides being legendary in D&H history, the name Carbondale is a constant reminder of the business that fueled much of the American growth and prosperity. The D&H had a large yard operation here, and in its original form, the Penn Division main line stretched northward all the way to Oneonta in the state of New York. In the 1980s, the D&H purchased the Lackawanna main line, including Taylor Yard between Scranton and Binghamton, New York, from Conrail, which allowed it to downgrade and eventually abandon the line to Oneonta, relieving it of one of its most formidable obstacles, the steep grades over the summit of Ararat Mountain. The line was then downgraded and eventually abandoned, and with it towns like Carbondale were all but forgotten. Today, the Pennsylvania Northeast Regional Rail Authority owns what's left of the line between Carbondale and Scranton, and the Delaware-Lackawanna operates it as their Carbondale main line. What remains of the old Carbondale Yard has been converted to a business park, part of which serves the thriving fracking industry. Back down the road in Green Ridge, we catch another northbound on its way to Carbondale with another unit train load of sand. Over on the Sunbury line, we catch train K81 making a rare trip into Taylor Yard from Binghamton. Those 2-bay covered hoppers are filled with, yep, you guessed it, sand. As I've said in many of my videos, Taylor Yard is the nerve center of operations on the Sunbury line, and although primarily an intermodal container facility, Taylor serves 4 railroads and several industries. In addition to intermodal, Taylor is also a Norfolk Southern bulk transfer facility. Until early 2016, the sand transloading operation was operated by a private company, hence the trackmobile in the background. Also note the position of the truck scale. NS would spot the cars on tracks 5 and 6, and any further movement was facilitated by the private company. When the private company left Taylor, NS initiated their own sand transloading operation and made a few changes in the landscape. Note these before and after photos. That rusty track at the left of the screen would be removed and the ground leveled as a right-of-way for trucks. Also notice that the truck scale is now also in a different position in the yard. Between the sand, the salt, the intermodal, and the interchange of freight traffic between 4 railroads, Taylor Yard has become a busy place. Another frac sand transloading operation can be found in Wysocks, Pennsylvania on the Lehigh Railway. The Lehigh Railway operates the Lehigh Valley main line between Mahoupany and Sarah, Pennsylvania. Norfolk Southern owns the line and interchanges with the Lehigh Railway at Sarah Yard. Back on the Sunbury line, frac sand cars can routinely be found on trains 11Z, 37T, and 14R, but occasionally come in unit trains to Binghamton, New York. NS runs unit trains like the 62Z. This train originates on Canadian National and runs to Binghamton, New York to the New York Susquehanna and Western frac sand transloading site there. Normally the traffic moves in on other trains, but occasionally it warrants a full unit train that sometimes runs with Canadian National Power. Sometimes these trains run over the Sunbury line. Today, unit sand train number 101 is clawing its way northbound to Binghamton behind 3 of NS's finest, including an ET-44AC Tier 4. The Wellsboro and Corning is a short-line railroad stretching from Wellsboro, Pennsylvania to Corning, New York that had made a name and a handsome profit for itself as a railroad serving the fracking industry. Shown here in its hometown of Wellsboro, you can see the influence of its primary source of revenue as well as its tourist attraction, the Tioga Central Railroad. Over on the Norfolk Southern Buffalo line is the small town of Emporium, Pennsylvania, and a large transloading operation carried out by the Western New York and Pennsylvania. The two Alco diesels are the local power for moving dozens of cars around for unloading. September 16, 2017 was a red-letter date for area rail fans. All the talk of the day was regarding Train 68Z, a unit sand train that not only had 4 BNSF units, a first I believe for this line, but unlike other trains that went to Binghamton, New York, today's train is for the Delaware-Lackawanna and it's going straight into Steamtown. This is a first for Steamtown, and as you can imagine, there were plenty of rail fans on hand to record this historic event. The first train to come up the line was a sizable 14R with 91 cars and conductor Tim Trudgeon riding shotgun.
Track authority 3677, 3677 to the T-18 9900 North and Ed Taylor, checkbox 1, track authority 3555350 is void with no switches. Checkbox 2, proceed from CP 648, 648, CP 631, 631 on the main track. 3677, 3677, 2 boxes 1 and 2, copied by Trudgeon on. 3677, 3677, 2 boxes 1 and 2, copied by Trudgeon.
For the main event, we went a little further south to Yates Ville. Yates Ville, sometimes called Laughlin, is home to a small industrial park and a formidable hill. And though not as grueling as the climb to Clark Summit, Yates Ville has been responsible for a great many stalled trains over the years. We set up near the top of the hill to record the action. What you're about to witness is the sight and sounds of raw, untamed horsepower as 5 of the biggest and most powerful locomotives in the world struggle to lift 105 loaded sand cars up and over the Yates Ville hill. And while I've primarily been an EMD fan my whole life, the sounds of these high-tech GEs roaring through the hills is a sound that I'll never forget. I now present it to you. Enjoy. Over in Pittston on the Reading and Northern, there's yet another sand transload operation that's smaller and tucked away out of view. Even the Reading and Northern has staked their claim to a share of this rapidly growing source of rail revenue. Back in Taylor, a quick crew change has taken place and the train travels its last couple of miles to Steamtown. We made it to Steamtown without a moment to spare as the train was moving past Tower 60. No train that day would top the 68Z, but as an added bonus, here's train MOA, a 10A extra, that had been held up at Factoryville to wait for the sand train to clear the line. At about 6:30 p.m., with about 5,000 feet of freight train in tow for the Northumberland Yard, MOA cruises past our camera and down the grade into Taylor. The rumor was that the 68Z was to be a monthly train in and out of Steamtown, but to date it hasn't shown up again. For now, I hope that you've enjoyed this look at a truly one-of-a-kind train movement through northeastern Pennsylvania. For Trains 21, call me AC.